Have you ever felt like you're running a race with no finish line? Like the world is spinning faster and faster, and you're just trying not to fall off? That's exactly how Henry felt. Every single day, Henry was a successful architect, living in the heart of a bustling city. His life was a meticulously planned schedule of meetings, deadlines, and networking events. His phone buzzed relentlessly, a constant reminder of another email to answer, another call to make, another task to complete. He wore his busyness like a badge of honor, believing it was the only way to get ahead. From the moment his alarm blared at 5 a.m., he was on the move. A quick gulp of coffee, a sprint to the subway, and then a 12-hour workday fueled by caffeine and ambition. He ate his lunch at his desk, his eyes glued to the screen, and often stayed so late the city lights would be twinkling by the time he headed home. He had everything he thought he wanted: a prestigious job, a sleek apartment with a panoramic view, and the respect of his peers. But something was missing. A deep, gnawing emptiness followed him around. He felt a constant, low-level anxiety, a tightness in his chest that never quite went away. He was connected to thousands of people online, but felt utterly alone. His relationships were superficial, reduced to quick texts and scheduled catch-ups he often had to cancel. He hadn't had a real, heartfelt conversation with his parents in months. He was surviving, but he wasn't truly living. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. It was a particularly frantic day. A major project deadline was looming, and everything that could go wrong did. The servers crashed, a key team member called in sick, and a client was threatening to pull out. Henry was a whirlwind of stress, barking orders and trying to patch up a dozen problems at once. By evening, he was exhausted, but the adrenaline kept him going. As he finally left the office, the city was drenched in a sudden downpour. Taxis were impossible to find, so he decided to walk, the cold rain soaking through his expensive suit. As he trudged through the puddles, his phone rang. It was his sister. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Henry," she said, her voice small and shaky. "Mom's in the hospital. It's her heart." The world stopped. In that moment, the project, the deadlines, the angry client, none of it mattered. He hailed the first cab he saw and rushed to the hospital, his own heart pounding with a fear he hadn't felt in years. Seeing his mother lying in a hospital bed, pale and frail, was a brutal wake-up call. The doctor explained it was a stress-induced event. "She needs to rest, to slow down," the doctor said, looking pointedly at Henry. The words echoed in his mind. Slow down. He had been telling his mom to take it easy for years, yet he was living his own life at a breakneck speed. He realized with a sickening lurch that he was on the same path. He was so busy building a life that he was forgetting to live it. Henry took a leave of absence from work, something he would have considered impossible just a week before. He spent his days at the hospital, not on his phone, but talking to his mom, really talking. They shared stories, laughed, and reconnected in a way they hadn't in a decade. He started noticing the little things, the way the sunlight streamed through the window, the kindness of the nurses, the simple comfort of holding his mother's hand. When his mom was discharged, Henry decided he couldn't go back to his old life. He needed to make a real change. His first step was simple. He went for a walk. Not a power walk to the subway, but a slow, aimless wander through a park he'd lived near for years, but had never truly explored. He left his phone at home. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. The urge to check for notifications, to be productive, was strong, but he resisted. He started to notice the world around him. He saw the intricate patterns on a leaf, watched a line of ants march purposefully across the path, and listened to the cheerful chirping of birds. He felt the warmth of the sun on his skin and the gentle breeze in his hair. For the first time in a long time, he felt present. He felt calm. This small act of slowing down started a ripple effect. He began incorporating moments of stillness into his day. He started a morning ritual of sitting by his window with a cup of tea, just watching the city wake up, instead of immediately diving into his emails. He rediscovered his love for sketching, not for a client, but for himself. He would sit on a park bench and draw the people, the trees, the buildings not as blueprints, but as art. He started cooking his own meals, finding a meditative rhythm in chopping vegetables and stirring a pot. He invited friends over for dinner, not for networking, but for connection. The conversations were deeper, the laughter was louder, and the joy was real. He called his parents every day just to chat. When he eventually returned to work, he was a different man. He set firm boundaries. He left the office at 6 p.m. No exceptions. He turned off his email notifications after hours. He delegated more, trusting his team. At first, he worried his performance would suffer, but the opposite happened. Because he was rested and clear-headed, his work was more focused, creative, and efficient. He was a better leader because he was a happier person. One weekend, Henry drove out of the city to a small coastal town he'd visited as a child. He walked along the beach, feeling the sand between his toes and listening to the rhythmic crash of the waves. He sat on a rock and watched the sunset, a spectacular explosion of orange, pink, and purple. In that moment, a profound sense of peace washed over him. He wasn't chasing success anymore. He wasn't running from an imaginary deadline. He was just there, experiencing the beauty of the moment. Henry's story isn't about abandoning ambition or moving to a remote cabin, though. That can be wonderful too. It's about redefining success. It's about finding a balance between doing and being. It's about realizing that the most precious moments in life aren't the ones we schedule, but the ones we allow to happen. We live in a world that glorifies being busy, but Henry learned that true richness comes from slowing down enough to actually experience our lives. So, if you feel like you're caught in that same frantic race, maybe it's time to take a page from Henry's book. You don't have to make a drastic change overnight. Start small. Take a 10-minute walk without your phone. Savor your morning coffee without scrolling through social media. Have a real conversation with someone you care about. Learn to be still, because in the stillness, you might just find the peace and happiness you've been chasing all along. You might just find yourself. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that helps us navigate our modern world with a little more peace and intention. See you next time.